First, we're going to listen to Dr. Christina Lampe-Önnerud. Christina founded Boston Power in 2005. She's an international recognized innovator and entrepreneur in the clean tech sector. Boston Power is headquartered in Boston, as you might understand, with mass manufacturing in China. They have raised close to $400 million US. We are really eager, Christina, to listen to your experience and advice. So please welcome Christina Lampe-Önnerud.
Tack ska du ha. Kul. Härligt. Nice to be back in Stockholm, and thank you very much. I'm going to take you on a journey, a quick one. So I had spent 15 years in the battery industry, first as a researcher, then as a business developer at Bell Labs and at Arthur D. Little, where I was a managing director and partner, and had a thought. What if you could just make a battery that worked better, one that didn't fail people, that actually worked the whole 4 hours in a laptop for the entire duration of my ownership, namely 3 years instead of 2 years, or perhaps 6 months down to 20 minutes? What if I could make a battery that actually didn't explode? In fact, in 2004, there were 20 million batteries, lithium-ion, mobile computing batteries in recall in the United States. But this was not public awareness. That didn't happen until 2006, when Dell and Sony had the biggest recall in the US history. And I thought, what about that? Unmet need in the market. So I took my 200-year-old house, where I have a very lovely carriage house, slightly modernized by up and down doors for the cars, and established a laboratory. I signed the co-pilots, big important people in this journey, you should know. And we decided to start a company from ethics. And it was quite a charm, being a very kind of high-powered executive transitioning to working out of one of the bedrooms of the house, where the door had to be changed, and you had to play with the kids on your terms. So I come into my 5-year-old daughter's room one day after all the phone calls have been done, and I ask, Anna Maria, would you like to play? And she goes, but of course, Mommy. And she seems very determined, and I ask, what are we playing? And she rolls her eyes and says, I've started a company. We went about this venture in Excel spreadsheets and took the company from idea to prototype very, very quickly. I was fairly well connected, kind of mid-career already, and had an established network in China, where I was able to pay from my private banking account for the trials on real production lines and reduce to practice. Third-time trial. A few $1,000s later, we had real batteries that worked. About $50,000 later, we had prototypes that we could show to customers. So I had the guts then, when HP and Dell and all these big guys said, we're interested, to hire some people, feeling grad students were a good risk. I mean, if it really failed, they could live with me until they found a real job. Going into consumer electronics as a first platform, if we really wanted to transform the industry of energy storage, we had multiple markets. And we decided to step up the game. Higher performance, faster charge, green, true green, and safe. There are a lot of accreditations that need to be happening. Transportation of devices that you make in hardware is actually one of them, really critical. We had as a goal very early on to have a marquee customer, and that marquee customer became HP. In fact, on our first meeting, 6 months into this venture, they said if we could take this idea of a high-performance battery that didn't just decay and that you could charge quickly, could be made into mass production, they would be our first customer. And 3.5 years later, we got our first PO. With the promise of HP, an endorsement by the industry that the team was real, we raised money. We raised a lot of money. The first ones came from the Rockefeller family and a small boutique venture capital group on the west coast of the US. With that, we could open real offices. We actually quite gladly moved out of my carriage house into office space with computers and printers, and also opened a buying company, our first foreign-held entity, as an import-export company in Shenzhen, China, where the Chinese government has determined the supply chain shall be based in this industry. We were quite committed to quality, with the knowledge of the safety problems, combined with the idea that small players only survive if you can execute against their vision. We were almost obsessed with quality. Everybody had to learn Six Sigma, and we developed a whole new computer system. In fact, all our batteries today still have a barcode. We have unique tracking, the whole supply chain, that day in production, all formation, and which customer it was sold to. China is an interesting country. Love the 4,000-year history. At first, it looks very similar to perhaps the Swedish culture. But after having operated there now for 7 years, there is a lot for us to learn with some pretty remarkable cultural differences. Interesting, spicy for sure, but not always easy. We established mass production in 2007, and that warranted the true growth step for us. We enticed Oak Venture Partners, the biggest VC in the world, $12 billion US dollars under management to invest in our company. Love them because they were long-term perspective. They told me it's going to take 10 years to build this company. I'm 7 years in, and it looks like they were pretty close to being right. I was born in Sweden, so I knew about the environmental consciousness here. And when we looked around for accreditation for green products, really committing to having true green going into the markets, we were really pleased to find that the office in Stockholm, Nordic Ecolabel, the Swan, was the toughest label, and still today is the only label that describes energy storage for lithium-ion. The Chinese are brilliant. They took that label and made it their own, so we now carry 2 accreditations. And again, on this battery, you can see the logo carried on every single device. With that, the Wallenberg clan stepped into the picture and became the other giant investor in this little idea company at this point. That was good for us. We had 2 different investor groups with slightly different history and slightly different knowledge. They came in with very deep pockets. And thanks to their commitment, we survived the really remarkable and stunning recession that killed many of our colleagues. With the money now raised into the company, we made a very definite commitment to transportation. We had proven ourselves in portable electronics, and we had recurring revenue in laptops. We landed HP as our first customer. Closely thereafter, we landed ASUS Tech, a Taiwanese-based laptop company, and Lenovo, but just for Chinese sales. We were supply constrained, and we needed to basically either stay as a boutique firm or grow and become a real player. We decided that with this step change in performance, we should try the automotive and the transport markets. And after the first trial, with the Italian friends, where they called and said, "Oh, Christina, you have the best battery we've ever tried." And it was actually above your specifications. It was a good day for us. And with that, it spread like wildfire. People knew we had not hyped this company in media. It came through the customer base. I think it's really important, the reduction to practice, and I wanted to bring that to this forum as part of the ingredients of progress in our company. To have real production was really critical. We thought when we started the company that we would be able to go after contract manufacturing, but found very quickly, 2 years or so into the venture, that contract manufacturing, we had to put too many people of our own into the contract manufacturing sites, and still we were not guaranteed the quality that we wanted. So we're now building our own factory. This is a picture from our entity in Hsinchu, an hour outside Taipei in Taiwan, where we can produce 120 megawatt hours annual production. That translates to roughly 600,000 batteries a month. We broke ground last September outside Shanghai in Liang district for our first greenfield factory, which can produce 400 megawatt hours, which is phase 1. The next phase is 450. So we will reach 1 gigawatt hour of annual production in about 3 or 4 years. That's a lot of batteries. That's 4 to 4.5 million batteries a month. And yet, in a market that is forecasted to be $250 billion by 2020, we will have a whole 0.2% global market share. But some cool applications have come along, and there are a lot of customers that we can remain grateful for. NASA was one of them. Amongst a lot of prestigious firms, we won the mission to the moon. We were invited to participate in clean tech and demonstrating thus that we had a step change in technology. So the same battery that you can power a laptop with, you can also power a car with, and a grid station. Or how about in India, in remote areas in India, the poorest people, we become cost effective because our batteries last. We can install one solar panel with one set of batteries, and it can stay there for a long time. Today we have a global presence, 9 operating companies and sales force in 3 regions, the US, Europe, and China, Taiwan. With the recession in the Western world and the issues with the European currency and the US debt, our focus shifted to China. We're now going after big time the Chinese transport segment, and it will make this company a very large company. And it's pretty cool to have a customer that is the mayor of Beijing who says, "We'd like to take the 3,000 cars into the cities of Beijing next week." And we cringe and say, well, maybe the next 6 months. And he stops us right there and says, "Oh, I don't think this was a discussion." Everything is about performance in the end. A step change, a game changer. Where the industry previously could address 200 to 300 life cycle, up and down cycles, full capacity, full depth of discharge, we're capable today in mass production of 1,500. Where the industry traditionally can charge in 2 to 10 hours, 2 hours for a laptop, typically 10 hours for a regular electric car, we can charge our laptops in 30 minutes to 80% capacity, or if you're really on the run, 40% in 10 minutes. We can also charge a full car in 3 hours. And we have a wide operating range. I know you somewhat care that the batteries work in the wintertime here and in Alaska and in Beijing, actually. So our battery was specified down to minus 40 degrees C. NASA, in fact, has qualified it down to minus 45 degrees C. And the upper range is about 70. Here are some reasons why I think we prevailed. These are specs. They're very important, but the more important issue is we invented a Lego piece. A small battery for engineers to put together and enable new innovation. We will likely not be the brand that you see in your consumer stores, your food stores, your battery markets. We will be an ingredient brand in the innovation products. Some of them you'll see here. Actually, one that you guys will be probably familiar with is the GM SAAB car. In 9 months from signing the contract with SAAB, we had a demo car on the Paris Auto Show. That's how easy it is when you build Legos. We could retrofit a real 9.3 with a whole family with space for groceries, with this idea of filling the same space for gasoline drivetrains to go into electric drivetrains, and even the gas tank was filled with batteries. This is a real car, 120 miles or 200 kilometers on one charge, charging in 3 hours, goes from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a car for real girls. And today, we continue to build the team. We continue to build the mission. And as the company has transitioned most of its market-focused and customer-focused to China, I stepped down as the CEO. I'm now chairman, and I will support this transition. I think it's really critical that you have local presence. And for me right now, Beijing is not the place to live. But the team will continue to operate in the spirit. And our customers will actually continue to carry the company. Today we have about 450 employees, and we're hiring between 600 and 800 people over the next couple of years. It's remarkable growth. And it was only possible because of all these people that helped, that sacrificed, that burnt for the vision of doing something that matters. In fact, the co-pilots, they felt we started this company. And I think while I was traveling a lot and was away a lot and put a lot of time into this, they felt part of this journey as well. And I can't wait to see what they will do when they grow up one day, because to them, it's possible to affect the world. There are a lot of philosophers that have thought about this topic, and maybe one of them actually matters precisely in this venue, Henry Ford. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. But working together is success.
Thank you very much, Christina. This is extremely inspiring, and we're so proud to have a Swede.
Well, thank you.
So we have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Is there somebody who would like to put up a question? I have one.
Yes.
This might be a sensitive one, but anyway. Why didn't you continue to grow the company in Boston and in the United States?
I think not so sensitive. I think as entrepreneurs, you grow up to be fairly pragmatic. The US markets basically shut down with the economic crisis. Not that US companies are cash-starved, quite the contrary actually, but people didn't want to invest in risk. And as an entrepreneur, I had the choice, right? I could keep it in the US and have it limp along, or take it to China, which is now the biggest market in the world for transportation. It's the #1 market. In fact, that's where GM is investing most of their dollars right now. And I could basically transform this company into something that really makes a difference. Not sensitive, but perhaps, of course, emotional. So as an entrepreneur, wonderful success. As a Westerner, a lost opportunity.
So what will be your new venture?
Oh, I don't know. I am in this luxurious position. I'm pretty committed to staying in clean water and clean energy for 2 reasons, Pat. One, it's really hard. And I think through this journey with these batteries and all the partnerships and customers, I have gotten to know something about systems. So real innovation, systems and partnerships. In fact, I feel that the new generation of entrepreneurial leaders bring not only new ideas, but actually a new way to lead. And I felt that I did an okay job in that journey, and I've learned so much that I absolutely have to give it another shot. And I feel it's also very, very urgent. The opportunity to do something really good in the next 10 years as the community of today is enormous. But we can also take these 10 years and just do nothing, and it's going to be pretty much of a catastrophe afterwards.
We're really looking forward to see the new venture, and we hope that we can connect with you again, because the experience you have now can be very valuable for many of our clean tech companies.
Yes.
So we'll give Christina a big hand again.
Thank you.
And here's a small gift for you to remember Sweden.
Oh, I don't forget. Thank you very much.